everybody, this is Craig Teener for The Mindful Eye and the photo of the week on the Daily Critique. This week's photo of the week was created by April, who's an intermediate photographer from Chicago, and April created this image for the Mindful Eye's assignment number 2, and the theme was parking lot. April shot this with a Nikon D300 at an effective focal length of 27 millimeters and at ISO 640, stopped down to f8 and exposed the file for 2/50th of a second. One of the things I really love about this image is, to me, it's an image that tells a really beautiful story, and it's a very layered image with a lot of depth, both psychological depth and visual depth. It gives us both the feeling and the illusion physically that we can move through the space. I love the parking meters here and the fact that we're facing into them. It really starts to, for me as the viewer, set up a feeling of imagining what's out of the frame in this direction. I can almost imagine sitting in a car and looking out and seeing this scene, and going all the way back to the sort of the back room of the image, seeing the silhouette of the person standing here is another idea from sort of a psychological and emotional standpoint that really starts to, for me, tell a story and move me through the image in sort of an emotional depth or psychological depth kind of way that's very powerful. And then from a design standpoint, there's quite a bit of depth here on the z-axis. Again, x is across, y is up and down, and z is the illusion of being able to move through these two planes of movement, which is just the reality of this. Is two-dimensional. The tonal changes are one of the things that help to create an illusion of near to far and moving through the image. Snow and then darker and then snow and so on and so forth. The idea of color change, so having a cool foreground and then warm in this part of the background really gives me the feeling of being able to move through the image. Some of these diagonals on the road here, even though they're slight, are really sort of helping to create the feeling of a convergence across these hard breaks of horizontal lines. And then been talking quite a bit about this lately, just want to keep mentioning it. It's also the implied movement from subject to subject. The relationship between the parking meters and the groups of trees in the background is very powerful, and that gives us sort of the feeling or the illusion of being able to move through as we go back and forth from one subject to subject. So even though there's not a contouring line here, there's an implied line of movement, and that can be really powerful. I'm also really enjoying some of the rhythms that are happening in the shot. I've already sort of pointed out indirectly the rhythm of the top of the parking meters and the heads of the trees, some of the other shapes in the trees. It's also a really beautiful feeling of rhythm in here on the pavement, where you get the darker area of pavement that's wet or where water's pooled. Same thing in here. A lot of these shapes, in addition to moving us on diagonals through the image, they're rhyming. Both the shapes in the parking meter and the trunks of the trees and the tops of the trees. I mentioned the color being really beautiful here in terms of warm to cool, and obviously what's driving that is quality of light and time of day, and that's having a big impact here. A really beautiful landscape image that's submitted for this parking lot assignment. I want to look at a few other images that we really like that were submitted. This image was submitted by Mo, who's a member of our community, and I really love the layered depth of this image. I love the idea of working with a flow of focus, and I love the visual unity here. There's lots of really neat rhythms. The fence and those shapes playing off of one of the highest energy areas of the image. That's really neat. The shape of the car, being able to see through the window here, these shapes creating really beautiful rhymes of the feeling of the fence. There's just a great sense and sort of like characters in the story, with the can and then the opening and the fence and then the car and then the building, and that's very layered and really powerful from a color standpoint. Warm, cool, warm and cool here, and on and on and on as you move through the image. So there's a lot of really beautiful movement of color, and to me just another really neat image at the level of story. Really like this image as well from Scott. Just love the quality of light and the reflection, and it's a bold composition to have this much negative space in the shot. But I think it really works well here with a lot of these shapes, the negative space shapes in the bottom in a very big way, rhyming a lot of the smaller rectangles in the top part of the image. And I'm also really enjoying this self-portrait that was submitted by Sam, who's a community member. I just really enjoy the rhythm of all of the circles that are happening. It really starts off with either looking here, because that's the highest contrast area of the image, and then you're probably going to end up here. This is the highest energy thing in the negative space in the bottom part of the image. You have a real powerful sense of semicircle, or the idea of circle. You see that in the rain that's coming down here, making the concentric circles where the drops of water are hitting this puddle, and great use of the fisheye lens and just having the barrel distortion rhyming all that, and then a really beautiful juxtaposition of the graphic of the arrow, and that being very angular, and just real formal symmetry here, pointing right down the middle of the reflection and then lined up with the middle of the arc in the back of the shot, but then some things to break up the formal symmetry. Really neat design in this image. And again, want to say a big thank you to April and to everybody who's participating in our assignments. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you're finding that it's one more way to boost your creativity, to become conceptual and take on an assignment in your photography. Hope to see you again real soon on The Mindful Eye.